Bill Remy, CEO of TBM Consulting Group, and welcome to our fifth and final video in our series on strategies for driving productivity and growth in your manufacturing business. Today, I'm joined by our Vice President of Global Private Equity, Gary Hoover, and we're going to have a discussion around how ESG can help drive productivity and growth in your business. Welcome, Gary. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks, Bill. Great to be here.
So as you think about ESG in the manufacturing space, how do you think manufacturers are thinking about it today? What's their level of investment, and how does it sit as a priority in their business?
Well, ESG is quite a broad topic, as each category of environmental, social, and governance has multiple dimensions. For our discussion, it'd be helpful to center on a select subset of the E portion and the S portion. In particular, categories under environmental that address topics such as the reduction of emissions and waste, and the social aspect as it pertains to safety and employee engagement. Considering these specific dimensions, at least in the US, I'd say the original zealot-like fervor to achieve ESG goals at any cost has now settled down, since most companies have sobered to the fact that venturing on this journey, while meaningful, takes a tangible and significant investment of both time and money. Given that, a more practical and pragmatic approach has surfaced across many of these companies. And as a result, what we are seeing today are those companies are continuing their journey to do the right things, but they're doing so with a balanced way and seeking some form of a return on investment that is in the nearer term, not just in the long term.
Okay, so as you think about, as they're balancing that, how would you think about, or how would you suggest they approach ESG with, tactics and initiatives that'll provide the right ROI and the best benefit to the organization?
Sure. I mean, what people often read in the news today has been centered around large-scale, long-term investments in things such as changing out entire combustion engine transportation fleets to those that are 100% EV. Other ideas include the long-term conversion entirely to renewable energy. For now, let's say those investments are all meaningful and helpful to the environment and the company in the long term. But a company's decision to make this investment is more or less the willingness to significantly spend on CapEx today, as well as have the patience to endure a long-term return that might take 10 or 15 years or more just to reach a break-even point. At the same time, when we're thinking of employee engagement under the social dimension, these investments that I've mentioned are single decisions that are not necessarily seeking the broader employee base to develop and implement those solutions. On the other hand, we have seen companies that have made strides to A, reduce the environmental impact, B, capture a meaningful benefit with an almost immediate break-even point, and C, do so through ideas generated by engaging frontline employees, for example, those who have firsthand knowledge of how things work at the point of impact.
That's a really good point, Gary. So as you think about the people aspect, especially in social or safety portion of the social segment in ESG, how does it help to think not just about ROI, but the engagement aspect of when you're focusing on safety and the well-being of your team members? How does that really impact culture and the engagement within the organization?
What we've seen through the use of vehicles such as Kaizen, the team members who come together can have a combination of elements that they address, which include safety through their lens and not simply through someone who's not connected to the process. And with that, it creates a speed to make the change, but also the sustainability. And what I mean by sustainability is not simply environmental, but the sustainability of that solution embraced by the organization itself and the people who work at the front lines.
Yeah, so it also provides just a reinforcement that you're involving people in that, but you're also demonstrating, if you will, or you're walking it like you're talking it, so that you're demonstrating not only a financial and community commitment, but a commitment to your team as well, right?
Absolutely. And I think through this, the concept of the E and S portion of ESG becomes more real and tangible to the organization because they're part of it. It's not a third party deciding. They are part of the idea base that will implement the solutions that will have a benefit for themselves as well as the company.
Yeah, so so it builds ownership of the initiatives within the business.
We've seen this across the board before we really saw ESG come to the surface as a meaningful and significant effort. But with ideas over the past 20, 30, 40 years, whether it's related to ESG, productivity, and other forms of waste reduction.
Yeah, and I think even sometimes organizations can think of productivity and safety as being mutually exclusive when in fact they're very much intertwined. That as you improve safety, you're definitely going to improve productivity as well.
Yeah, I think it's a good point because we have seen over 30 plus years of being in the business that the ability to get people to embrace this is connected to the methods of improvement that are used to really drive the things that matter and not make it a measure of how quickly someone can get something done, but more about reducing the unreasonableness along the way, which really gets not just the productivity, but the buy-in of hearts and minds and the people at the point of impact.
So, what are some examples of short, medium, and long term initiatives that companies can take in ESG to drive ROI and productivity within the business?
Well, just as in modern portfolio investment theory, it's helpful to create a basket of ideas and implement just as many things that provide a near term break even point. Almost all of these are achieved through the creativity and engagement of those who work on the front lines. And as you can see on the graph, when applied in an aggressive manner through the use of improvement vehicles such as Kaizen, organizations can make a quicker impact that has a very short break even point of no more than 6 to 12 months versus the longer term that you can see on the graph of 10, 12, or more years than that for the larger scale returns. Shorter term examples include being able to mitigate and reduce energy losses through compressed air leaks that reduces the amount of compressed air that's needed to use, or even using just-in-time principles to minimize storage needs, which impacts overall energy costs, route optimization for vehicles, cross-docking so that vehicles can reduce the amount of miles they spend with an empty or partially loaded truck. Any one of these alone will not have the sizable impact of the larger scale examples. However, when you put all these things together, you wind up having significant implementations that can match the longer term investments in their size, but also get the best out of the organization for a faster, more meaningful payback.
Great examples, Gary. And the route optimization also makes me think that even within your warehouse or distribution center, if you did pick optimization or routing optimization within the warehouse as well as optimize the layout of the warehouse, you can have similar impacts, perhaps narrower scope, but still similar benefits to reducing forklift traffic and energy consumption related to forklifts and so on.
Yeah, these are valuable for the reasons you mentioned before, Bill, around the ability to improve productivity, the ability to reduce energy and things that connect to the environmental aspect and safety, and also being able to show the organization that we're reducing the number of footsteps, let's say, to be able to complete a task. And so all these things are working together. And then the best part is that the solution is coming from the organization as opposed to someone outside their area deciding for them.
Yeah, I think that's one of the best points is really of how we pull on the team and their ideas, because as we know, going to the point of impact and talking to people yields some of the best improvement ideas you can find because they work with it every day, right?
Right.
Well, Gary, thanks for joining us today. It's just great insight, and I think should be positive food for thought for companies of how they can engage and drive productivity and growth through not only the ESG umbrella, but just specific initiatives within that'll drive better performance.
My pleasure. Thank you, Bill.
All right. So, to our listeners, thanks for joining us in our series on how to drive productivity and growth in your manufacturing business. If you have any more questions or would like to hear more, feel free to reach out to us, and we'd be more than happy to talk to you. Thanks for joining us today.